Welcome back to Real Estate Mindset. Today's video is going to be absolutely bonkers. Now, the data is in, and today we're going to go over all of the forced selling that's happening across states like Florida, North Carolina, South Carolina, and Tennessee. And not only are these homeowners having to sell, being forced to sell, a lot of these homeowners are selling for hundreds of thousands of dollars under market value, which in turn is leading to a potential short sale crisis as a result of the lack of money that FEMA and states are willing to pay out to homeowners that are trying to leave the area that was just impacted by catastrophic flooding from Hurricane Helene and Hurricane Milton. And so in today's video, we're going to go over all of those things. We're going to tell you guys how much FEMA and the states are offering to pay homeowners and how much of that is actually under market value, despite what FEMA is saying. And then I'm also going to share with you guys several different testimonies from homeowners that are selling for hundreds of thousands of dollars under market value. Towards the end of the video, I'm going to share with you guys my next plan as far as going out to North Carolina to investigate what exactly is going on out there. I plan on sharing with you guys the testimony of the actual homeowners and volunteers, and we're going to continue to share their story until something is done about the situation that they're in. Now, before I get into today's video, Mitch, happy Sunday. Thank you for taking your time to co-host today. How are you, sir?
Good. We have more information, as always, trying to connect the dots, but every time we think we've got something finished, then something else shows up, i.e. what's going on in North Carolina, and it does correlate and tie right back to, in reality, the fraud on the houses, and we'll explain that momentarily.
Yes, and also Mitch knows that he cannot stop me, and I am going. Let's start with the first video where it's actually going to go into the potential of a short sale crisis.
For sale signs are popping up all across the Bay Area. Owners are selling them as is, wanting cash offers with no contingencies. And some are facing a short sale if they're underwater on their mortgages.
Now it's going to go into a little bit more about why people would have to short sell to begin with.
Somebody's turning around and selling now. From a financial standpoint, it's going to be it'll wind up being a low. It'll be a low point.
Realtor Phil Rizzo says clients who didn't flood are also waiting to list because neighborhoods aren't show ready right now.
One distressed sale impacts the entire community. That is the way that comparable sales and value work, unless it's just fraud.
Those with mortgage payments or forced by FEMA to raise or rebuild may not be able to afford to wait. Forced by FEMA to raise or rebuild may not be able to afford to wait, even if it means selling for 6 figures less than it was bought.
Those folks are going to be they're going to be caught in a tough spot to where the mortgage that they have on it is going to be higher than what their land value is going to be.
Do you think that it's a potential short sale catastrophe brewing, or do you think that this is just another hurricane season?
No, what happened in North Carolina is just simply off the charts. It's created an extremely complex situation. But anybody that is trying to buy an asset in irreparable condition and then blaming the house owner when the house owner has insurance, that activity is actually criminal. This isn't just an economic issue. So I don't know how many of those homeowners can hear what it is we're about to say, but when you have this type of issue and everybody, be it FEMA, the city, the state, the banks, they're all pointing the finger. They're going like this: it's this person's fault. Well, when they start that nonsense, the real fast issue, sue all of them, joint and severally liable for the all-in costs. Force all of them to get into a room at one time, and then they won't be pointing the finger at each other. They'll be looking for a solution, a settlement. And that settlement would end up being what, in the commercial side of things, would fall under the heading of expropriation. But now you're forcing all the players to the plate. The idea that a bank would foreclose on somebody in that condition when they've got an insurance policy to cover off the damages is a huge problem. In other words, somebody is lying. They're committing fraud. It's just a question of who's doing it and at what level are they doing it. So think of it this way. Before the hurricane, you had a nice home on a piece of land. It's got insurance. After the hurricane, you have, let's call it, no home on a piece of land, but you still have the insurance. Now the insurance company shows up and says, no, we're going to say that this was a result of a flood, not the result of the hurricane, of the wind. So the insurance company is going to try to back out of the damage. Well, the second that nonsense happens, you're now in a predicament where you've got to go to war with the insurance company. You have to fight them on a legal level. Or you end up doing what FEMA's offering. Well, take this lower amount of money in exchange for we get you out of hot water at this exact moment, but you're losing more money and you still haven't solved the problem with your lender. You still haven't solved the problem with potential real estate taxes that are owing, and your all-in cost issue means absolutely nothing because you can't get there. So the fast solution, whether people understand it or can hear what I'm saying, is truly file a lawsuit joint and severally liable against all of them. Because at the tail end, you have an insurance policy, that policy has to cover. And that is the way that this has to be handled. So this is a mess, a big time mess. But somebody to say, I'm going to take my money now and I'm going to lose $200,000, $300,000 and I'm just going to get out. Well, is that an emotional issue or is that a fiscal issue? Because if it's a fiscal issue, no, that's not the answer. That's the exact opposite of what you should be doing.
Here's something I want to make clear for the viewers. It's an illusion of getting something at this exact moment. If you have FEMA buy out your house, that process can take 2 to 4 years. So your emotions, and we're about to find out, we're going to go into the FEMA section of this video now where we're going to show you guys how much FEMA is actually offering to people for their houses. But I hope you guys understood in the video I just played for you, they said FEMA is forcing them to sell. Imagine that for a second. FEMA forcing you to sell and then also forcing you to sell your property for hundreds of thousands of dollars under market value. Listen to this video.
Now they're on track to actually sell their home to FEMA. But what's a fair sale price?
It started out at the county, and I kept asking the gentleman, Shannon Ball, who was in charge, what the value was. And he kept telling me that he knew how to do his job and not to worry myself about it. And then when it was transferred to the state, I asked again, and I was told, don't worry yourself about it.
Imagine losing everything and being told by multiple people that you're leaning on to help you not to worry about it. Well, your job is to help us worry about it and then create solutions, not act like we're lunatics for being concerned about losing everything.
News 6 investigated and we found out FEMA's own handbook on property acquisition advises communities to include a fair market value for the property using appraisals. The Chiarizzis hired their own appraiser who estimated their home was worth $404,000, a difference of $157,000.
I want what's on that grant.
That's unacceptable because she backed up the value of her house with a uniform residential appraisal.
If they were to buy this house tomorrow and say, walk away, here's the money, I would be fine. I would be okay. This is my house. This is my home. This is a building, but this is my biggest piece of equity that I own. This is the money I need to create a life for the two of us.
And this is just the application process.
That's just the application process. They still have to wait 2 to 4 years to even get paid. If they want to get paid, it's a very emotional situation. They probably just want to leave, as you heard there, Mitch. But what do you think someone should do in a situation like that? Do you think that they should take a step back, maybe get control of their emotions, wait it out? Or do you think they should just get out of there, Mitch, and sell their properties for hundreds of thousands of dollars under market value?
Let's back up for a second. When I say sue everybody, that means the school district, the taxing entities, the city, the state, FEMA, any entity that is trying to buy out a contract, the lender, you sue all of them. So think about this for a second. The taxing entity, before that storm hit, says that the value, which we already know has been inflated for at least the last 5 years. Let's just run with that for a minute, okay? Well, if the value has been inflated for 5 years running, and they claim that the value of that house, for sake of conversation, is $500,000. The storm hits, the value of that house drops to the price of the land minus demolition. So let's say that FEMA is saying, well, here's 200 grand. You're still on the hook for, let's call it, another $280,000 at the bank. Bank says, you're upside down. You've got an insurance policy. We don't care. We're going to foreclose you. Okay. The way to stall all of this and make sure that your economic situation is looked after for, hear me, all in costs. That's key. All in costs. You've got to be made whole. That's why you have an insurance policy. But when the state or the local taxing entity is claiming, well, this is the value of the home, yet they don't pay you for that value of the home, the all-in costs, if you simply say, I want out of North Carolina, I'm going to go somewhere else, right? You're going to buy me. But if you leave an area that's $180 a foot or $200 a foot, and you move somewhere else, your all-in costs are likely to be $210, $220 a foot. You see the problem? So the idea that, well, I'm going to take a fast buck, that's not where all the liabilities are. You can't probably define all those liabilities at the moment. The idea of getting a fast buck really isn't on the table for you, for most people. It's complicated, but the bottom line is find an attorney who's local that understands what's going on and understands that he has to sue on behalf of you, the homeowner, everybody in sight, because somebody's lying. If your local taxing entity says, here's the value, you've got an insurance policy for that value, how can you all of a sudden be obligated to take a $300,000 hit in the value? The answer is you can't, you're not, you got a policy, fight. That's what has to happen here. So finding an attorney that's pro bono, I don't know if they'll do it, but I'm suggesting reach out to Pacific Legal Foundation. These are big people. They understand what's going on. Find an attorney that's local that will handle this. But there's a lot of people in harm's way, and people don't get to say, well, we deemed that you've paid us for the last 5 years $18,000 in property taxes over and above what should have been the real value, and then turn around and say, oh, no, that's not the real value. It's now $300,000 less. Well, what happened in between? A storm? That's what the insurance policy is there to cover off. See the problem? So the point being, as far as we can tell at this moment, based on how complicated this is, the immediate solution is look after your pocketbook, because you're not going to get the fast buck anyway. So you may as well stand up and fight, go get an attorney, and sue everybody in sight. Put them in a courtroom. Put them in mediation. Let's see how they wiggle out of that one. You've got an insurance policy. Stand on it.
Okay. So in other words, you guys, if you have been impacted, you may want to settle down a minute, ascertain your situation. Obviously, you lost everything, but settle down. Make phone calls, contact FEMA, contact your insurance company. Don't just settle to sell your house for hundreds of thousands of dollars lower. And it's not just with FEMA. Mitch, these investors are already out there like a pack of wolves trying to pay for, these homeowners' houses for pennies on the dollar. Let's listen to some testimonial from several different homeowners that are now fed up with everything, and they're okay now with selling their houses for under market value by hundreds of thousands of dollars. Take a listen.
Unfortunately, this is the third flood in 2 years. I can't live in this flood zone where you're constantly having to move out for 6 or 7 months.
She bought it 3 years ago at $575,000, now listed at $425,000. As is for investors after Hurricane Helene.
I'm going to lose a lot.
That's way too much money to lose. But I mean, look at the fear, look at the defeat in her eyes. She flooded and had to rebuild 3 times in 2 years.
I'm going to lose a lot, but I've gained a lot of friends and I've had great experiences here other than the flood. So I just have to cut my losses and move on.
Now take a listen to this investor.
They put it on the market after renovating it 60 days ago at $460,000.
When we purchased this property, we were thinking, okay, well, what's the future hold? You don't think to yourself, there's going to be 4 foot of water or 3 foot of water or whatever.
Now?
And just dropped it down to $299. You'll see the listings that are pending at, $300,000 or $250,000 were originally at, $450,000 or $500,000. So you just have to just kind of roll with the punches.
We have two cautionary tales right there from a homeowner that purchased a home as a primary residence and from an investor that was speculating that they could sell the house. And that investor reduced the listing price by over $150,000. So, Mitch, my question to you is someone that's very experienced with not only math, but actually building properties. Is it even safe to speculate?
Before I answer that, I just want to go back for 1 second. All communications that you have with a municipality, FEMA, your local taxing entity, any and all communications need to be in writing. Do not trust anybody and assemble your documentation such that you are prepared to go to court. When an investor like that stands up and says, well, we're just going to walk away, we don't know if they paid cash and they're prepared to lose it. We don't know if they've got a mortgage, right? We don't know anything. But the reality is that that's a different circumstance than a homeowner who's now got a house that they paid $575. They're going to try and move it for $425, given its current condition without any improvements. What are the odds of even getting that $425? Not very high. All these circumstances are different. However, we also don't know what's happening in the immediate vicinity in terms of the flooding, and will it flood again? And is that the fault of the city? Is there a problem with the sewer lines? Is it just the low-lying land, whatever it happens to be? There's a whole bunch of circumstances here. However, there is an insurance policy, and we're operating that if you've got an insurance policy and they try to wiggle out of that policy by saying, oh no, this was a flood, this has nothing to do with the hurricane, you've got grounds to fight. You've also got grounds to fight on the value that they've assessed to you over the last 5 years to try and make yourself whole. Some people just simply say, I don't care, I want out. But what if they have a mortgage? They say, I don't care, I want out. Then reality hits and they're upside down by $250,000, $300,000. Now, to your question, Travis, is it safe to speculate? Well, no, because speculation has risk. It's not even a question of safe. Speculation has risk. If speculation didn't have risk, then risk wouldn't exist. So people may want to take their chances, but they didn't solve the underlying problems that I just reviewed a second ago, which is this area going to continue to flood? What is the history? Can I get the insurance? And that's a huge question, as we're now seeing out of Florida, because so many people are running away to the point that homeowners are having to self-insure. So again, everybody's circumstances are different, but it really comes down to you're not going to get paid out fast anyway. So given that reality, fight.
That lady said it flooded in that neighborhood 2 times. I mean, 3 times in 2 years. That was probably a wolf. He came in, spent a whole bunch of money. Now he reduced the listing price to $150,000. There are risks right now in everything. And that's not all. We're not even out of hurricane season. There's another storm developing right now that's supposed to enter the Gulf of Mexico on Wednesday. Listen to this.
We can run some of the tropical models here, and it is expected to move north-northeastward. You can see by Monday evening, heading towards Cuba. And then by Wednesday midday, this feature, which will likely become a tropical depression, possibly a tropical storm by Wednesday, will enter the Gulf of Mexico. But where it goes in the Gulf of Mexico is still uncertain.
The website that I'm using to track these storms, because I live in the Gulf of Mexico, which is Cyclonic WX. So there's 3 storms that they're monitoring right now: Patty, Congray, and this one right here, the Invest 90. So that's the one that they're worried about. If you guys click that, you can actually drop different types of forecasts, like the track, the wind speed, the pressure, and things like that. Mitch, before I go into my next investigative journey to North Carolina, do you have anything you want to say to close on?
Most of you have seen the original version of this that I did about a week ago, but I've expanded upon it to help make a couple of points. So this is the expanded version, and over on the left-hand side where you see an X, I just want to hammer home on a few things. The 5-year cumulative fraud on all house owners, averaging at 2% on the tax, is a total of $425 billion overpaid. That's hard cash taken from all homeowners. The next issue was the average overtaxation per house per year times 5 years. So per year is $2,972 multiplied by 5 years. That's $14,000. This is part of the equity stripping. So every homeowner in the United States, on average, has paid that amount of money purely based on fraud. That's a tax on fraud. The next issue was that the average cost per house owner with regard to the school district bond debt per year is $49,335. Okay, that's per year because they take your money, your tax revenue, and they lever it up. Congratulations, you're now on the hook for that. We all are. So the next level was the monthly amortized cost, right, on a 25-year amortization at 6%, okay, is $9,000 per month, over and above what you already make, over and above what all of us already make. And that is impossible, meaning the debt can't be paid. The next one is the monthly amortized cost on the 25-year AM at 6% for the average homeowner is $2,600. Well, the net result of that is that the total average house owner is responsible for $11,680 per month in amortized costs, which is the U.S. national debt plus the unfunded liabilities plus the debt created by the local taxing entities. Again, impossible. It cannot be paid. The percent greater than the average home mortgage, this is the big kahuna, 435%. Not only impossible, but I would go as far as saying its creation is criminal because it violates so many laws under the US Constitution. First, Fifth, 14th, and 16th Amendments. And I also want to point out that that quote by Thomas Jefferson that Travis reviewed on our last video clearly shows why the 16th Amendment prohibits taxation of unrealized gains. Therefore, based on what we are now looking at, which is mathematically impossible to pay off, proves that A, Thomas Jefferson was right, B, proves that taxation on real estate is criminal, shouldn't be done, it's not allowed under the 16th Amendment. The states have gotten away with something by modifying it, but the truth of the matter is now look at the damage it has created. There's 23,000 employees at the Federal Reserve here in the United States. I would venture to guess that not one of them understands what Thomas Jefferson knew in the 1800s. It is inexcusable, it is criminal. And the end result of the overvaluation and overtaxation and the fraud is the impossibility to pay the outstanding bond debt, plus the US national debt, plus the unfunded liabilities. And the total of those three issues equals equity stripping. As I've said, this is over. It's just a question of how much damage is going to be left. And everything we're talking about in North Carolina right now, these people that have to pay these real estate taxes that aren't going to see their money for, let's call it 24 months if they do, they're still on the hook. How much you want to bet those taxing entities have their hands out? Pay us, pay us, pay us. Give me, give me, give me. So you see what the problem is? Pure fraud.
You know, I never even considered that. All of these people that, especially, and I'll show the viewers where I'm going in North Carolina, but those homeowners that had everything wiped away, that don't have any money, that bill is still
ticking.
It's still ticking. And so what happens if they don't pay that? It's going to turn into a tax lien. And what states do is they sell tax lien information to a pack of hungry wolves that try to kick people out of their house. The whole system, when it comes to people's homes and properties, is unfair. It's un-American. And at the end of the day, owning a house right now, it doesn't even seem like true ownership. It seems like it's just a trap to continuously pay taxes to our officials, Mitch. It's very discouraging, sir.
I've said it twice in this video. I want to say it one more time because it's really important. All in costs. Your clock is ticking. So even though you think, well, okay, I'll take a $150,000 hit, I'm out of here. Well, yeah, maybe no, because you haven't even seen your closing statement, right? You can't just walk away without getting permission from your bank, because what's the bank going to do with the mortgage, assuming you've got one? So these are huge problems. But from your own perspective, to protect your own pocketbook, as well as your sanity, all in costs. Keep it in mind. That's what you are entitled to when you've got an insurance policy. Sue everybody in sight. It's the only way to protect yourself. and document the hell out of it.
Well said, Mitch. Now, what I want to do is let me show the viewers where I plan on going and why. I will be making a GoFundMe account for the first time in the history of my life. I'm asking you guys to help fund this investigative journey if you are in a situation to do so. And what I plan on doing, you guys, is I will make transparent, I will be forthcoming about every single penny spent. I'm going to create a different account and I'm going to make every single thing public. I'm also not going to fly out there. I'm not going to stay in a hotel, and I'm going to use as much money as possible to do things like collect water samples and soil samples. Let me show you. This is where I'm going to be staying right here. There's 250 cots. I will not be staying at a hotel. I'm going to be staying at this, and this right here, Mitch, is a middle school that's located in Spruce Pine. So I'm going to be setting up base camp actually right here. As you guys can see, at Spruce Pine, I've made a little bit of a video on this. This is actually the only quartz mine up here. I'll be doing a little bit of research on that, but this is where I will be staying right here, Harris Middle School. So I'll be gathering all the information on Spruce Pine. After that, I'm going to be going south to this Asheville area right down here, and I'm going to be going all along Highway 40, and I'm going to be investigating Chimney Rock, Swananea, Black Mountain. This entire community right here was absolutely devastated. So my intent is to go there and not do videos with my face in it with damage, but I want to talk to these people, and I want these people to share with us what is actually going on in those areas straight from their mouth. I'm also going to be going east. As long as I have enough time to do that, I'll be investigating Kings Mountain and Cherryville as far as what's going on with the whole lithium mine grab. Part of the reason I'll be asking for help specifically for this trip is because the water test and soil tests are extremely expensive. Here's one of the tests I'll be doing. It's a professional PFAS test, which is going to test for multiple chemicals. I've seen multiple videos of workers that are saying their boots are melting because there's so much toxicity in the water. So we're going to go around, we're going to be doing water samples. And in addition to that, as long as we can generate enough money, I'm also considering doing soil samples for the PFAS, which range from anywhere from $700 to $800. Now, if you guys are interested, if you don't have the money, don't even think twice. But if you are interested, this is my GoFundMe right here. I have listed all of the places I'm going to travel to, as well as everything that I intend to do with the money. The link is in the description. And other than that, Mitch Vexler, I appreciate your time today. You guys, good luck out there. And if you're out there just living your life or investing in real estate, you guys already know we wish you luck and we hope you win.